Let's get back together here and see what we got. All right, let's see what we have going on here. Let me mute this here real quick. So when you look at that, video or those commercials, I'm telling you, it's amazing how there's two 30-second clips, and the amount of material sociologically in there is just, you could write a 20, 30, 40-page essay on it, like easily. I'm not telling you guys are going to do that, don't worry, but you could. So when you examine that and you start breaking it down, you start asking questions of what's being represented, how is it being represented, why is it being represented, and how is all of that relating to some of the concepts and terms that we realize in our class. In other words, that's how I would start. I would do the 5, who, what, when, why, how, where, and then say how do I examine the who, what, when, why, how, where within sociological terms. And that's a good clue for your essays, you guys, right there. That's a great starting point. If people ask me how to start with it, I'll say do that. Start with who, why, how, when, where, and then take that, each one of those, and go who sociologically, how sociologically, why sociologically, and those terms I had on the board would be very good. How, class, how is it representing class, that kind of thing. All right, so along those lines, who's got something they'd like to contribute with regard to what you saw on those videos sociologically? And there's so many ways you can take this one. So let's start over here. Yeah.
I could be completely off, but I saw cultural relativism.
Okay.
Looking at someone's culture through their own eyes, because the director of a commercial might not be a stoner himself, but he's looking at it through their eyes to attract them to buy it.
Okay, so very good with that. So the concept of cultural relativism, where you're obviously that the producers and the directors of those commercials are not high. Well, actually, I guess it's not obvious that they're not high. But I mean, you get the point here. Is they're looking at it through what they would think a stoner would be like going through the drive-through at Jack in the Box at 2 in the morning. Okay, so yeah, that's a good start. Yes. So to explain why. Yeah.
How the prices and everything.
Or how.
$6 and that type of class of people we targeted. Kind of expecting what level they were.
Very good. So he's saying socioeconomic status because, hey guys, after all, it's 2 tacos for 99 cents. So who are they targeting? Yeah, us. Exactly right. Low socioeconomic status, relatively low socioeconomic status people. It's people that, and who represents that, right? That's who they chose. There's so much in this. That's who they chose to represent that low socioeconomic status person, by the way. Let me ask you this. Why, and I'll get to your stuff here, because it's amazing how sociological this is. Why would they choose, who did they choose, first of all? Well, somebody, if you can encapsulate that case study right there, which is what we call that, a case study, who is being represented there demographically? Okay, well, raise your hand if you got it. Yes, go ahead. That's it? I want you to encapsulate the whole demographic that's being represented there. Who's being represented? Young. That's part of the demographic, is they're young. What's another one?
In the second commercial, the girl seems to be living, like she seems to be in some kind of basement. You can maybe assume that she's a younger adult living with her parents or some other family member, so she's lower socioeconomic status and
right.
Can't necessarily support herself or something along that.
Yeah, she's living in a basement, or she's down there like on the couch in the basement watching TV. There's some inferences being made that she might not be that wealthy, that's for sure. Okay, so we got youth, we got low socioeconomic status. We're kind of getting there, yes?
They all seem like the 2 actors, they seem like they had like low class and like they were low educated because like their thoughts were not like academic, they were just like high.
Okay, so here's the thing. How do they get away with showing somebody that's low educated or maybe seem to have not as much class? One of the scapegoats' way of doing this is by giving, not directly saying, but by giving the perception of them being high. Because then you can ridicule that person, not based on their class or their lack of education, then you can laugh at them because they probably are smart, but they're just high right now. Or it could be that they're not smart, and it's hilarious that they're doing this anyways, and they're not smart and they're high, right? So you got all this kind of thing. So, okay, so the inference is that they're not that well educated. I would say. I mean, there's inferences being happened there. That would be hard to dissect sociologically, but you can tell by the feel of the show. Yeah.
I was going to say they're trying to appeal to different ethnicities because one commercial is hamburgers and the other one is tacos.
Well, I guess that would be cultural representations of food, tacos and hamburgers. Is that what you're saying? Yeah, okay. Okay, but we're kind of getting somewhere. I would say that most people in here would say that the ethnic representation in that is not being appealed to that widely. I'd say it's very, very targeted. I don't know what you guys would say, but I'm trying to get someone to offer this up right now. Yes?
Nonverbal communication.
Okay, yeah, nonverbal, yeah. What's that saying? The arm laid on the car.
Laid back, sort of.
Hi.
Yeah, hi.
No, I'm just out. Okay.
The girl, like, she was kind of moving, kind of like her arms like waving all over the place, sort of.
Yeah, a little spaced out, yeah. Okay. Yeah, there's some nonverbal communication happening there. Definitely nonverbal communication. How about some newbies in here? Somebody come up with something here. Some of that, you know, somebody branch out here a little bit. Yes?
They even use like specified language to like stoner class.
Okay.
Like the munchie box.
What do we... Okay, all right. Yeah. So there's stoner words in there. You know, I find fascinating with it, I don't know if anybody caught this, but they use the word foodie. Right? So they're reclassifying something that's highbrow in a kind of tongue-in-cheek, like, hey, we're foodies. Like, you know, here's a real foodie. We get, you know, jalapeno drizzled. This is a foodie for you. This is a real foodie right here, right? So they're reclassifying a term that would usually be used only for high-class people, and they're giving it for stoners. So it's kind of funny. That's kind of like, you know, that's not a foodie, but that is a foodie kind of thing. All right, so then you had, okay, so that's good. So you had that. Anything else? Anything else? Yes, in the back. Okay, tell us how. Social norms, totally. Give us.
I guess because socially, if you're of that class, it's normal to think that's okay.
What's okay? That going through the drive-through high?
Yeah, because where I'm from,
Yeah.
they don't have fast food. So
Aha. Good one. Good one.
it's not socially acceptable where I'm from to even.
Okay, wonderful. Geography in there, guys. Socioeconomic status based upon, I know from doing my research that there's certain areas that get targeted for fast food restaurants. And they get targeted for supermarkets that have no fresh fruits and vegetables or high protein quality foods in them, or high or grains that are complex grains. They're very refined grains. All right, there's areas that have that in them. All right, so that's a geography thing. There's certain areas that have fast food. Those tend to be lower socioeconomic status areas. If you go to places like Mill Valley or Marin County, you will not find very many McDonald's, if at all, or Burger Kings there because the people won't eat them. Okay, they just won't eat it. And if they are there, they're not going to let them advertise. They're going to control the hell out of them. They're not going to let them do their big, large signs, and they're going to make, because they're very conscious about their area. Okay, so you have socioeconomic status like crazy in that movie, and the inference is he's driving in an old van. Okay, she's down in a dingy old basement. Okay, that's how we get the socioeconomic status inferences from that as well. So yeah, so that's a good point as well. Obviously, like what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. Yes.
I've seen them before. I didn't see them there, but they're kind of like also kind of try to create an emotional response. I mean, you turn in a pet name, you know, and you're like food as a pet name, like foodie. You know, you're already trying to, you know, make it more of like a pleasure thing and you know, more of like a, you know, not necessarily just I'm eating to survive. You're eating to get a thrill out of it. Like a person getting high, you know, they're eating because it feels good to eat when you're high.
Right. Very good. So you have this connection also between the drug effect of food, like literal drug effect in there, and then the actually insinuated or biological drug effect of the food that you have. So those are the last two. Is that all we got out of that video? Because there's plenty more in there. I just want to make sure. Yes.
I think there was interesting like ties of counterculture and regular culture, and the fact of
good.
People who were higher up saw it and they were intentionally making it so it was demeaning towards them.
That's right.
So they would be able to laugh at it and still remember it, whereas people who could identify and relate to it would relate to the parts that they related to and view those parts as more important, so they remember those parts.
Right.
So like they hit both
Yeah.
sides of the demographic, even
Right.
though their clear demographic may have been one side or the other.
Right.
It was interesting.
You're told that's a very good, it's going to work for all populations, demographically, age-wise. Because the young people are going to look at that, the ones that are probably still experimenting and smoking out more, a little bit more and stuff like that, and go, ha ha, I've been there. And the older people demographic is going to look at that and go, yeah, that's what my kids like, ha ha, right? So you're appealing to people that relate to it and people that don't relate to it, okay? So that's very good. So there's an ageist demographic involvement with that too.
Cultural lag, because for our younger people, for younger generations, especially the legalization of marijuana in some states, they might find it acceptable, but for older people who watch the commercial, that grew up with traditional views or conservative views, they view it as like cultural lag, and they're fearing that their culture is losing out on that new type of culture, like normalization of a new culture.
Yeah, there's an element of cultural lag in there. I would have to agree with that. But the interesting thing about Jack in the Box is that they're not going for the older generation as much as they're out and out in your face going for a younger generation, which I find interesting. Yes, last one.
I think it appeals to a distinct stoner subculture.
Right. Absolutely. There's a subculture. That's not a counterculture, is it? A counterculture commercial wouldn't work well, because here's what you'd have with the counterculture commercial. Somebody going through the drive-thru going, you shouldn't be serving beef in your tacos. Beef is bad. Meat is murder. That's wrong. This is part of the wrong part of our culture, is that we allow meat to be served in fast food restaurants. That's a counterculture. A subculture is saying, you know, it's not as big pervasive in our popular culture, but is a part of our culture. There's argots in that too, guys. Okay, and I'm going to leave that out there for you as well as a term that you guys should have picked up in that. And then the other interesting thing that needs to be pointed out, when I find it very interesting that you guys did not point this out, is the ethnicity of this. They're white, and they're being made fun of. Think about that for a sociological element to it for a second. They're white. Who can you make fun of, right? There's certain acceptable ethnicities to make fun of and not. But here's you can't just leave it at that. This is not a political statement. This is a sociological statement. Why is that? Okay, it's kind of going back to what we were talking about earlier, which is this idea of dominant ideology. The reason you can do that is because the dominant ideology is entrenched and in power, and so it's much less of a risk for people that are empowered and privileged to laugh at themselves than to people that aren't empowered and privileged to laugh at themselves. Jack in the Box isn't going to do a commercial laughing at ethnicities, okay, and representing ethnicities in a funny way because if they're not dominant and they're not in power, because it's going to be very hurtful to people. Okay, but the white privilege in that allows us to go, oh, that's just a subculture of our white culture, which is the stoner culture, which also has different ethnicities represented in different ways. Believe me, it truly does. But this is a hipster white subculture being represented, clearly a white subculture being represented here right now. And so it's easier to do that with them. Now, I'm not judging that good or bad. What I'm saying is that's a sociological way of unpacking that phenomenon, looking at it and going, that's interesting. Why have I not seen a stereotype that works with other things? We stereotyped a type of person up there, and it was okay. Nobody was incensed. Or if you were, you didn't offer it up. But that's just another interesting thing, isn't it? You didn't feel comfortable offering it up. But if I was in here, and let's say I was part of that subculture, and that's how I was being portrayed right now up there, I'd be like, wait a minute. Hang on for a second. So the dynamics about that are massively fascinating. But I don't want your opinion on that, you guys. I want you to analyze that sociologically using terms and concepts. I don't want your opinion. I could go on Yahoo if I wanted to read ethnic opinions on stuff and things like that. What I want you to do is I want you to unpack those and examine those ideas using terms that dominant ideology, cultural diffusion, argots, things like this that have been laid in front of you as good tools to do this with. Okay? All right, so here's the thing about this. I am going to stop here in about 5 minutes. So I'm giving you that right now because I can already feel the itchiness going on right now. People are like, okay, it's about time. So tomorrow, Wednesday, what I'm going to do for you guys is I've made copies of a publication that would be the kind of publication that you would use. And I'm going to go over this with you so you learn how to use these. And you know the references I want you guys to have? So you guys can learn how to use these as references. And I'm going to go over this is a real academic publication, okay? And it's on emotions and food. So we've just talked about food today and examined it sociologically. What we're going to do is we're going to look at this bit of research, particular research, and say you're still writing your essay on food, sociology of food, and we're going to see how you would use this for your essay. Okay, how you'd use it for your term paper. And that way you can get familiar with the format, what to use, what not to use, what these things, because a lot of people when they first look at these publications, it's kind of intimidating to them. They're like, this looks like a medical journal or something like that, right? So they get kind of freaked out. So I just want to get you guys familiar with these and so you know how to use them, okay? Okay, so that's what we'll do on Wednesday. You don't have anything to read. What I would do tonight is I would go home and I would take those notes that you had on your 3-ring and I'd put it on a focus card, all right, and get that done, okay? All the quiz questions are coming from my lectures, okay? Social network analysis, finishing up with this on Wednesday. You guys did a great job today. You guys are starting to learn sociology really well. I'll see you guys on Wednesday. Have a good day.